The air on Erebus Station always smelled faintly of metal and old air filters. It wasn't home. It was a stopgap between wars, a fragile outpost hanging over the burned world below, a place where silence carried too many memories. Lieutenant Mara Cade walked the main corridor with her hands behind her back, her boots striking the steel floor with steady rhythm. Her reflection followed her in the dull silver walls, short black hair, tired eyes, a scar that traced from her temple to her jaw. She looked like someone who had seen too much, and she had. 20 years ago, the Zyrth Dominion had nearly wiped out humanity. Their ships burned through colonies like falling stars. Their technology too strange to fight. Their motives too alien to understand. And though a treaty now existed, everyone knew it was only paper. Mara didn't trust paper. She trusted training, instinct, the smell of plasma burns, and she definitely didn't trust the Zorthaber. So when Commander Sloan called her into his office that morning and told her she'd been assigned as escort to a Zyrth liaison, her jaw tightened so hard it hurt. "You can't be serious," she said. "Orders from the Diplomatic Council," Sloan replied. "The Dominion sending one of their scientists to help with our energy core calibration. We're supposed to show cooperation." Mara almost laughed. "They kill half our colonies and now they want to help us with power systems?" The commander sighed. "I don't like it either, Cade, but this piece is fragile. Just keep him safe. It's only for a few days." Safe. The word tasted wrong. Still, orders were orders. The shuttle arrived that afternoon. Mara stood on the docking platform with a small security team, her arms folded. The airlock hissed open and out stepped a figure unlike anything human. The Zyrth was tall, thin, and almost translucent, his skin like glass lit from within by soft light. 2 silver eyes blinked without pupils. His movements were smooth, deliberate, almost too calm. "I am Ithran of the Dominion Science Council," he said, voice calm and clear. "I bring the greetings of my people." No one greeted him back. Mara only stared. Every part of her body wanted to reject his presence. The way he moved reminded her of the images she'd seen as a child. The burning skies, the screaming broadcasts, her mother whispering, "Hide. Don't breathe." "You'll follow me," she said coldly. "No wandering. No questions." "Understood," Ithran said, inclining his head slightly. He followed her through the corridor, quiet, his light faintly reflecting off the metal walls. Crew members paused to watch. Some whispered. Others turned away. By the time they reached the research deck, Mara could feel the tension pressing like a storm. "This is your lab," she said, gesturing to a clean, windowless room. "Stay here. Don't touch anything without permission." He nodded once, placing a strange metal case on the counter. His fingers were long and jointed oddly but graceful. "I understand your discomfort," he said. "But I assure you, Lieutenant Cade, my presence is for peace." She didn't answer. She turned and left, letting the door seal behind her. That night, she sat alone in the cafeteria, staring at a cold cup of coffee. The station's hum filled the silence. She should have felt relief. Another shift done, another alien avoided. But her gut told her something was wrong. The systems had flickered twice that evening. Power drops that shouldn't happen in a modern station. And when she checked the logs, she noticed data files missing. System diagnostics erased. Someone was tampering with the station. Her instincts flared. The timing was too perfect. "The alien arrives and the power starts to fail," she muttered. Figures. Still, she couldn't report it without proof. Commander Sloan would just tell her to be professional, so she decided to keep watch herself. The next day passed in uneasy quiet. The engineers worked nervously around Ithran. He moved with precision, almost like he could feel the pulse of the station. Every so often his gaze drifted toward Mara, unreadable. That evening, as she made her patrol, she noticed something strange, a faint vibration through the floor. Like a heartbeat in the metal, she followed it down 2 levels to the maintenance bay. The lights flickered, a tool chest lay open. Wires were cut. Someone had bypassed the security feed. She crouched beside the cables, tracing them carefully. Whoever did this knew what they were doing too well. Before she could react, a soft voice came from behind her. "You should not be here alone, Lieutenant." Mara spun, hand on her sidearm. Ithran stood in the doorway, his faint inner glow casting ghostly light across the room. "How did you find me?" she demanded. "The energy fluctuations. I felt them, he said simply. Mara frowned. You felt them? Our kind senses energy differently. Something is wrong with your systems. This was not my doing. She wanted to believe that was a lie. It would make things easier. But the quiet in his voice didn't sound like deceit. It sounded like concern. If I were you, he said softly, I would not walk these halls alone tonight. And then he left. Mara finished her inspection and returned to her quarters, her thoughts running wild. The sabotage was real. The alien knew it too. But if it wasn't him, then who? She sealed her door and tried to sleep. The station hummed faintly. Somewhere far below, engines throbbed like slow thunder. Then she heard it, a soft sound outside her room. Not a threat. Not footsteps running away, just presence. She approached the door quietly and checked the small camera feed. It was Ithrin. He was sitting on the floor, back against the wall, eyes half closed, his faint glow reflecting off the metal. Mara opened the door slightly. What are you doing? You should rest, Ithrin said without opening his eyes. The one who damaged your systems. They are not done. It is safer here. You're guarding me? I am guarding us, he said. If they destroy this station, both our people lose. Mara stood there, unsure how to answer. The war had taught her to hate his kind. To fear them. To see them as monsters. But here was one sitting outside her door, not as an enemy, but as something almost human. You don't have to do that, she said finally. Perhaps not, he replied. But I will. She watched him for a long moment before closing the door. When she lay down again, she didn't feel as tense as before. The hum of the station still filled the silence, but now it felt steady. She didn't sleep easily, and not yet. But when she did, she dreamt of stars that didn't burn, and of an alien sitting quietly watching over her door. The next morning, the lights flickered again. Lieutenant Mara Cade woke to the sound of her alarm and a dull ache behind her eyes. The air in her cabin felt heavy, like the station itself was tired. When she stepped outside, she saw Ithrin still sitting by her door, his glass-like skin dim in the soft hallway light. You didn't move all night? She asked. I rested, he said simply. I do not require sleep as you do, Mara sighed. You're making the crew nervous. Am I making you nervous? He asked quietly. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked past him, pretending she didn't notice the faint smile that crossed his alien features. A small, almost human gesture. The command deck was buzzing with unease. Technicians whispered in corners, glancing at screens that showed more red warnings than green lights. Commander Sloan stood near the central console, rubbing his temples. Systems are failing again? Mara asked, stepping forward. Yes, he said. We lost environmental control on Deck 4 for 5 minutes. Nearly froze the crew in their sleep pods. Power surges, missing data, corrupted files. And now communications are unstable. He looked tired, older than usual. This isn't random sabotage, he continued. Someone knows exactly where to strike. Mara hesitated, thinking of the words Ithrin had spoken the night before. What about the alien? She asked. Still in the research lab, Sloan said. At least that's what the logs say. Mara nodded. I'll check on him. When she reached the lab, the door was already open. Inside, Ithrin stood near the console, studying a holographic map of the station's energy grid. The image glowed blue against his translucent hands. You shouldn't be here alone, Mara said. And yet here I am, he replied, his voice calm. Lieutenant, your station's systems are being tampered with from multiple points. Whoever is responsible understands both human and Dominion technology. That made her pause. You're saying it's not just one person? No, it is a group, coordinated. They call themselves the Purity Line. Mara's eyes narrowed. You've heard of them? Yes, Ithrin said. They exist within both our species. Humans who believe peace with aliens is a mistake. Earth who believe humans are a disease. Together they plan to reignite the war. Mara felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. You're serious? Completely, he said. They are already here. I can feel their interference in the energy network. Mara studied him carefully. For the first time, she realized how alien his face truly was, and yet there was something in his eyes that looked sincere, maybe even afraid. Why tell me this? She asked. Because you will believe the truth faster than your commander will, Ithrin replied. You watch. You listen. And you have not yet decided to hate me completely." She looked away, unsure what to say. Maybe he was right. Maybe she didn't want to hate him anymore. But she still couldn't trust him, not yet. "Fine," she said finally. "If you're right, we'll find them. But I'm keeping an eye on you." "Of course," Ithran said softly. "That is what you do best." Hours passed in tense silence. Mara and Ithran moved through the dark corridors of Erebus Station, tracing the energy signatures he claimed to feel. The power flickered more often now, leaving patches of darkness behind them. The air felt colder. "Your people built this technology?" she asked as they walked. "Parts of it," Ithran said. "Your engineers adapted Dominion systems after the war. It was efficient. But it also means your station is open to those who understand our methods." Mara frowned. "So we made peace, Yuma, and made ourselves vulnerable at the same time. Peace always carries risk," Ithran said. "But so does hate." The words lingered in her mind long after he said them. They reached the lower maintenance deck, a quiet maze of pipes and cables. Most crew avoided it because of the noise and the temperature shifts. But Ithran seemed at home here. He placed a hand on a wall, eyes closing. "There," he whispered. "Someone's rerouting energy toward the communication core. It's subtle, slow enough to go unnoticed, but constant." Mara activated her wrist console. "Can you pinpoint it?" "Yeah, Section C9, Mara tapped the coordinates. "That's right next to the fusion core backups. If someone took control of that, they could disable the station completely, or worse." "We'll check it out," she said. "Stay behind me." He tilted his head slightly. "Do you truly believe I am fragile, Lieutenant?" "I believe I've got more experience dodging explosions." "A fair point," Ithran said with a faint glow of amusement. They moved carefully through the narrow tunnel. The air was colder here, and the walls dripped with condensation. The station groaned softly like it was alive and in pain. When they reached Section C9, Mara saw what Ithran meant. Several panels had been opened, wires replaced with sleek, unfamiliar cables. Someone had blended human and alien tech. It looked deliberate. "They've been here," Mara whispered. "And recently," Ithran added. "The modifications are fresh." Mara crouched near the panel. "Can we undo it?" "Not without triggering alarms," he said. "But we can trace the signal." He touched the wires gently, his skin lighting up faintly as he worked. The light reflected in her eyes, and she found herself watching him. Not as an alien, but as someone strange and graceful, like a bridge between worlds. "You're different from what I expected," she said quietly. "And what did you expect?" he asked, still focused on the wires. "Something colder, crueler. And yet you found me sitting at your door." She looked away, embarrassed. "You don't have to keep bringing that up." "I only bring it up because it matters," Ithran said. "Fear keeps you alive, Lieutenant. But trust keeps you human." The signal trace led them back toward the central decks. The corridors were emptier now, most crew confined to quarters for safety. The lights dimmed again as power was rerouted to life support. Mara and Ithran stood near a viewport looking out at the planet below. Once green, now gray, a dead world. "That was Valera 4, Mara said. "My family lived there. Before the war." "I know," Ithran said quietly. "I have studied your file." She turned sharply. "You what?" "I needed to understand why you hated us," he said. "Your pain is understandable." For a long moment neither spoke. Only the hum of the station filled the silence. "I lost people too," Ithran said finally. "My siblings served on the fleet that destroyed your colony. They refused to follow the final order to burn the cities. For that they were removed." Mara looked at him with surprise. "Removed? In our society, disobedience is not forgiven. You see, Lieutenant, hatred does not only destroy humans." The words hit her like a quiet blow. The idea that both their sides suffered. It wasn't something she'd ever allowed herself to think about. "I didn't know," she said softly. "Now you do." Later that night, when she returned to her quarters, Ithran followed silently as always. The corridors were darker than before, flickering faintly like candlelight. "You don't have to stay," she said as they reached her door. "You should rest. And if I leave?" he asked. "Then I suppose I'll have to trust you'll come back." He studied her face for a long moment. "That is progress," Mara almost smiled. "Almost." Then she stepped inside and let the door close behind her. She sat on her bunk, staring at the dull ceiling, trying to calm the storm in her mind. She thought about the sabotage, about the lies, about how easily everything could fall apart. But more than that, she thought about the alien sitting outside her door, guarding her again without being asked. Maybe peace wasn't something written in treaties. Maybe it was something built one quiet night at a time. And somewhere deep in the station, unseen, a soft pulse of energy moved through the wires, a signal meant to destroy everything. But for now, Erebus Station still stood, still breathing, still holding on, and so did she. The next day began with silence. No alarms, no flickering lights, no voices on the intercom. Lieutenant Mara Cade woke up and knew something was wrong before she even opened her eyes. The air felt thick, like the station itself was holding its breath. She stood, stretched, and listened. Nothing. The usual background hum, the low vibration of engines and filters, and was gone. That was impossible. Mara opened the door quickly. Ithran wasn't sitting outside this time. The hallway was empty. The light panels glowed faintly red in emergency mode. Her heart started to race. "No," she whispered. "Not now." She ran toward the command deck, passing through dim corridors that looked abandoned. The walls pulsed faintly with emergency power. When she reached the deck, she found Commander Sloan and 2 technicians trying to restart the systems. "Status?" she demanded. "Catastrophic," Sloan said, his voice grim. "Something overloaded the main reactor lines. The fusion core is unstable. If we can't vent the plasma buildup, Erebus will explode within the hour." Mara froze. "What caused it?" "We don't know," Sloan said. "Could be the purity line, could be an alien virus. Could be—" "It's not Ithran," Mara interrupted sharply. Sloan blinked at her. "How can you be sure?" "Because he's trying to save us," she said firmly. "And I need to find him." Before the commander could reply, she was already gone. The lower decks were darker now, almost completely black. The emergency lights glowed faintly like dying stars. Mara moved carefully, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. Pipes hissed softly overhead, dripping condensation. The air smelled of ozone and burning metal. She turned a corner, and there he was. Ithran stood in front of an open control panel, his hands pressed against the glowing circuits. His skin shimmered with faint blue light, brighter than she had ever seen before. "Ithran," she called. He turned, his eyes reflecting the faint glow. "Lieutenant, you should be in the command deck." "What's happening?" "The fusion core is reaching critical instability," he said quietly. It was a delayed signal, planted days ago. Once activated, it fed on the station's energy grid. "I can slow it, but I cannot stop it alone." Mara stepped forward. "Then we do it together." He hesitated. "You will be exposed to dangerous radiation." "I don't care," she said. "You think I'll sit upstairs and wait to die?" Something like a smile crossed his alien features, small, sad, but real. "Very well," he said. "Follow me." They moved down through the maintenance shafts, deeper into the station's heart. The walls grew hotter, vibrating faintly from the rising energy. The fusion core chamber was a wide, circular room glowing with blue light. The massive energy columns pulsed like veins of lightning. Sparks jumped across the consoles. Mara shielded her eyes. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "And deadly," Ithran replied. "If we do nothing, it will breach in 30 minutes. He moved to the control station, his fingers gliding over the panels. "The override codes are damaged. The purity line signal rewrote the safety program." "Can we shut it down manually?" "Yes, but one of us must stay to keep the plasma vent open. It requires constant pressure regulation." Mara frowned. "You mean someone has to stay behind?" "Yes." "No," she said immediately. "We'll both make it." Ithran didn't reply. His silence said everything. The ground shook slightly as another surge hit the system. Alarms blared through the speakers, echoing through the chamber. Mara rushed to the auxiliary console, hands flying across the controls. "Tell me what to do." "Reroute the coolant lines to Section Delta," Ithran called. "We must stabilize the temperature before it melts through the core housing." She typed quickly, sweat running down her face. "Done. Now open the plasma vent. Manual switch on your right." She grabbed the lever and pulled. The sound of rushing gas filled the air. The pressure dropped slightly. The blue light dimmed, and just a little. "It's working," she shouted. "Yes," Ithran said. but not fast enough. He stepped closer to the energy conduit, his body glowing brighter. I can absorb part of the excess radiation. It will buy us time. Mara turned sharply. No, you said it's lethal. For you, not for me. My kind can tolerate short exposure. You'll still get hurt. Perhaps, he said softly, but it is better than letting your people die. Mara stared at him. The alien she once hated was about to sacrifice himself for her crew, for humanity. No, she said again, firmer this time. We do this together. No one dies today. He looked at her, and for a long moment neither spoke. The room pulsed around them, the hum growing louder. Then slowly Ithrin nodded. Together then, they worked side by side. Heat built around them. The floor trembled. Energy roared through the conduits like thunder. Mara's console sparked. She coughed as smoke filled the air. Pressure at 80%. Keep it steady, Ithrin called. His voice echoed strangely, vibrating with the hum of the core. She could see the light from his body growing unstable, flickering like a dying star. Ithrin, stop. You're overloading. Not yet, he said through gritted teeth. Almost there, she ran to him, covering her face from the blinding light. You can't, Lieutenant, he shouted. Vent the last chamber, now. Mara hesitated only for a second, then pulled the final lever. The chamber roared as plasma vented out into space, lighting the stars outside with a brilliant blue glow. The tremors stopped. The alarms went silent. The light faded, it was over. Smoke filled the room. The air was thick and hot. Mara coughed, waving it away. Ithrin. She found him lying near the console, his glow dim but steady. She knelt beside him, her hand hovering over his strange, glass-like skin. Hey, stay with me. It is stable, he whispered weakly. The station is safe, she exhaled shakily. You idiot, she said softly. You almost died. And yet, I did not, he said, a faint glimmer of humor in his tone. Good, because if you did, I'd have to tell everyone I liked you. He blinked slowly. Liked? Mara realized what she'd said and looked away. Forget it. No, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I will remember. She helped him to his feet, supporting his weight. They began walking back toward the lift, the blue light of the core fading behind them. Hours later, the rescue ships arrived. The crew was safe. The reactor was stable. The official report said the malfunction was contained through combined human and Zerth efforts. It didn't mention the long nights, the quiet fear, or the alien who refused to leave her door. Mara sat in the medbay beside Ithrin's bed. He rested silently, his light dim but peaceful. Commander Sloan entered, arms crossed. You did good, Kate, he said. Both of you. We got lucky, she replied. Luck had nothing to do with it, Sloan said. You trusted him. That's what saved us. He left without another word. Mara looked back at Ithrin. His breathing was slow, steady. She found herself smiling slightly. You really are the strangest thing that's ever happened to me, she whispered. Days passed. The station slowly returned to normal. Crews repaired the damaged systems. Laughter returned to the hallways, and the uneasy silence faded. One night, as Mara prepared to sleep, she heard a soft knock on her door. She smiled before even opening it. Ithrin stood there, taller than before, light glowing softly under his skin. I have recovered, he said. You shouldn't be up, she said. Doctor's orders. I was told rest is important, but peace of mind is also rest. And how do you get peace of mind? By keeping watch, he said simply. Mara sighed. You still think you have to guard me? I do not have to, Ithrin said. But I choose to. She looked at him for a long time, then stepped aside. Fine, you can stay. But if you start glowing too bright, I'm turning off the lights. His eyes shimmered faintly. Understood. He sat by the door again, just as he had that first night. The hum of the station returned, steady, calm, alive. Mara lay down, closing her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe, not because the war was over or because treaties were signed, but because someone she was supposed to hate had chosen to care instead. When the lights dimmed, she whispered softly into the dark. She said she hates aliens. Then she smiled. But she refuses to sleep away from my door.